Well, all right. Welcome back to the Survival and Basic Badass Podcast, Kevin and Chuck. Today, well, we're going to talk about farms. We're going to talk about the whole world food system. We're going to talk about big things. Turns out the world is shifting in as far as how we're growing food, what we're growing, what we're pushing in the stores, how we're like doing the whole thing. And it really all kind of comes down to global warming, right? Or I guess, is it climate change now, Kevin? Is that
Yeah,
right?
it's climate change. We can't say global warming. That's I
That's
don't know.
taboo.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not the right thing anymore.
So I
Turns
don't
out that was all bullshit, and it's actually climate change.
know. All right. So the thing is, if you live in a bubble and you think that everything is about Trump and Biden, this probably won't even concern you. I wouldn't worry about it. But it turns out there's bigger things at play than just the US. It turns out there are certain people in the world who think that America needs to be put in its place and don't really see America as a world leader.
Yeah, there's
America,
actually like 8.5 billion people that aren't Americans at all.
they don't even give a shit about America. They're like, you know
Hmm.
what? Fuck you guys. Whatever. We're tired of you telling us what to do, and you keep making bad decisions over and over again.
I mean, fair.
Exactly, right? You're like, all right. So they're all pushing for this whole bigger thing. And those of you who know about the Great Reset or the World Economic Forum and all these clowns, this is in the UN, right? This is where it's really all being driven and where stuff seems to be coming from.
Hmm.
And basically, they want to cut food production dramatically. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
Right.
We
Everybody
can
knows.
get into all the details of how, but
Right.
yeah,
Everybody knows 90% of global warming is from cow farts.
basically, the recurring theme that we're going to kind of keep building up to here is they want to bring they want to reduce food consumption, and they want a two-prong approach, and the two-prong approach is reduce the people and reduce the food.
Hmm.
And then you can kind of bring that whole
That
thing down,
works.
right?
Hmm.
That's fair. But it's not. All right. So I guess the big panic is in 2010, we had 7 million people in the world. Or sorry, yeah, not 7 million. Um, that would be 7 billion with a
7
B.
billion with a B.
Right.
All right.
And by 2000 or 2050, we're expected to be 10 billion. And we're actually at 8 billion right now. So we're moving right along. We're
All
chugging.
right.
Um, the replacement rate, that would be how many babies each woman has in pretty much the whole world, is like 2.1, which is sustainable, like just stays the same.
Right.
Okay.
Stays the same.
Um,
Yep.
but Africa, they're like 5-1. So the
Yeah. They.
powers that be, they hate Africa. That's like,
Yeah.
oh, devil. That's why they're trying to, sterilize everybody with your Bill Gates shot. I
Yeah.
mean, I didn't say anything. Just disregard that.
I mean, I
So
I think I mean to be fair, he is promoting vasectomies, condoms, and birth
yeah,
control in
but
Africa.
remember his vaccine that accidentally sterilized all the women. There was that
Right, accidentally.
accidentally, because who didn't see that coming? I mean, I didn't see it coming. I had no idea, and then there it was.
Yeah, I
So
actually got my COVID vaccine and my dick fell off.
see,
You know.
you were. I thought you didn't talk about that at parties and stuff, or like a private
Yeah,
time
keep
kind
that between you and me and
of small
everybody that's
circle of
listening.
friends here, right?
Hmm.
All right. So anyway, basically, they have. There's a lot of charts and graphs, but I'm going to be able to talk you through it. I think it's going to be good. The thing is, they want to reduce total greenhouse gas emissions by 30%. And it varies between 30 and 33, depend who you hear speaking. But it's basically from um, uh, for gas emissions, for your house heating, for everything. They want to cut 30%. They basically want everything to be less, and that doesn't sound horrible on the surface until you realize. But what I find concerning is they act like food is the biggest problem, at least, when that's what you're looking into, when only 10% of overall emission problems come from food.
Hmm.
Like, oh, cows are the problem. Oh, this, we need to cut by 30%, but you're only talking about 10% of the total um of emissions from everything.
Right.
So it's kind of bullshit. Like it doesn't have to be there. I feel like we could do better other ways.
Hmm.
Now, obviously we could get into my distaste for, yeah, we'll switch to solar, but we only have batteries that are toxic and poison for the planet, and we got to kill the little African babies who mine it or whatever. And I don't know why we have to use 4-year-olds to mine the stuff for the batteries.
Small, nimble fingers.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, I don't
Now,
I don't know. I mean, it is fucked up if you look into some of the cobalt mining in Africa, like
it's
they're
hard.
really fucking these people up. And the
Well,
trick though
because it's
is
big nerve damage is the thing.
right.
It's really toxic.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean the thing is, if you
The
keep
lithium.
people
Yeah.
like right on the edge of starvation, if you keep people extremely poor, then they have no choice. You know what I mean? That's the only option to survive another day or two.
Another day or two, whatever. Yeah. And it so the big thing, like they seem to hate grass-fed animals. And it's something about the fermentation of the grass that's causing all these emissions. That's where you get the cow burping.
Hmm.
That's the big problem. Um, I have, yeah, there's a lot going on. So basically, they call it ruminant meat, which is anything that grazes on grass,
Hmm.
basically. So
Anything
beef,
that chews its
lamb,
cud, or
goats, yeah.
yeah,
Um,
rabbits.
so the goal is to limit ruminant meat consumption to 52 calories per person per day. Now, I don't know if you realize what 52 calories are, but that ain't much. Basically,
Couple of Cheez-Its.
their explanation is about 1.5 cheeseburgers a week.
Okay.
I don't know if they've been to my house. I mean, I could eat just 1.5 cheeseburgers as long as I'm having steak the other night. I'm
Right.
having, but that's not really their plan. Um, and yeah, but I do have a solution, it turns out. Okay. Now, because they want to shrink the population and they want to up the food supply, but with less animals and farming.
Hmm.
There was a thought back in the 70s as something they could do.
Right.
Kevin, you want to enlighten us?
Soylent Green, man.
Soylent Green.
Now, if you haven't seen this movie, you really need to go back and watch this,
It's a
because
classic.
I mean, spoiler alert, Soylent Green is people. But at the end, Charlton Heston has a brilliant scene where he's riding away on some sort of a truck, screaming, "It's people!" Like classic acting, classic 70s acting, like way over the top. It's great, fantastic movie. But I mean, really, if you're trying to, when it comes to farming, if you're trying to reduce demand and
Yeah,
reduce supply, I mean, that's a 2 for 1. You know,
exactly.
convince people that their life is so shitty that they should go to the suicide chamber. You know, for the good of all mankind,
For
and
the
then you
good of
just
all mankind.
turn them into food.
Now that's the thing. Like the American school system.
Recycle, reuse.
Yes. See, maybe that's where those slogans really came from.
Hmm.
I see it. Um, so that's one of the things. The American school system is really pushed where kids are like, "Oh my god, it's not good for the planet. I'm not going to make babies." Like a lot of kids are actually against it. And then
Yeah,
I would
there's a
say
lot
we
of
could
people
even
that.
go one further, and I don't know that this was a conspiracy. It was maybe a weird side effect. But it seems like most of these kids who are addicted to video games and the internet and social media don't even care about sex or whatever, at least with people or
Yeah,
whatever.
not with other people.
Like most girls now are going to like 25 without even, seeing a boy or whatever. They're like, I don't even want that.
Mhm.
It just sounds gross. I just don't want anything. Ah,
Yeah, I mean, boys are kinda gross, so, I mean, it's reasonable,
fair,
but
fair.
yeah.
That's something you could, look into. I don't know. But it does turn out when again, you look at these graphs and charts that come from, everywhere. But it turns out we're good with most animals. Like we can eat pork, we can eat eggs, we can eat fish, we can eat poultry, even dairy. It's when you get into sheep and goat meat and then beef that we totally kill the whole planet and everything dies and whatever.
Mhm.
But it turns out I feel like that's almost a straight attack on America. Because who really loves beef more than America loves beef?
Right. It's actually kind of, funny. When you go overseas, you might notice it a little bit, but it's rare in the world that people will eat meat for
Mhm.
3 meals a day. You know what I mean?
Oh,
It's not uncommon to have bacon and sausage for breakfast, a ham sandwich, and then steak for dinner in the United States.
that's just
That's
your house,
not a
my
crazy
house.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's
in a
our
lot of
house.
places, you know, that's not normal.
Yeah, no, it definitely is a disturbing trend. Um, so I do have you guys remember your hero John Kerry, one of the most brilliant speakers of our time. His
Uh-huh.
enthusiasm, his energy,
Right. It's
eh,
charisma.
charisma. That's exactly where I would go when I think of John Kerry. Well, John Kerry had some insight, and he was speaking to the UN about this, and he was like, "Look, we need to cut everything by 30 years." And I got to say, this is just going to bring a whole tirade of emotions from me after you hear it. So
Right.
let's just, it is about a minute. So it's tough because it is John Kerry, the most enthusiastic man in America. But, hold on, see what you think.
Agriculture contributes about 33% of all the emissions of the world, uh, depending a little bit on how you count it, but it's anywhere from 26 to 33. And we can't get to net zero. We don't get this job done unless agriculture is front and center as part of the solution. But with a growing population on the planet, we just crossed the threshold of 8 billion fellow citizens around the world. We just crossed that in this last year. Emissions from the food system alone are projected to cause another 0.5 degree of warming by mid-century on the current course that we are today. A 2-degree future could result in an additional 600 million people not getting enough to eat. And you just can't continue to both warm the planet while also expecting to feed it. Doesn't work. So we have to reduce emissions from the food system to keep the 1.5 degrees alive. Why do we have to keep 1.5 degrees alive? Because scientists, as a basis of physics and mathematics, not ideology and politics or party labels or anything else, as a matter of physics and mathematics and some biology and chemistry have told us these are the consequences. And we already see it happening. And almost everything they've predicted for 30 plus years now is coming true, but the problem is it's coming true faster and bigger than was in fact predicted.
All right. Did that come through or did it break
Yep.
up in there? Are you okay? It was good. All right.
That was pretty good to me.
So here's the deal, though. He says that science has shown everything we thought with global warming and climate change has not only proven out to be true, but it's been proven out to be true faster.
Hmm.
And I'm thinking, and he says over the last 30 years, and I'm thinking, isn't that the exact opposite of what happened? Like, weren't
Hmm.
we all going to be dead like 8 different times? They were like, oh, there's no way if we don't change, there's no turning back. There's no, we're going to be underwater. There was that movie, The Day After Tomorrow. It was just a matter of time if we didn't change everything. And
Everybody knows that global warming leads to New York City being buried under glaciers.
it always does come down to that,
Hmm.
acid rain, right? Exactly. I don't know. I I just find it disturbing that, we keep going down these roads. And obviously, right? The climate changes, seasons are different than they were. I remember things being different in the past and then they are now and whatever, but I also know that, me not getting hamburgers is not going to be the solution, at least not for me.
Hmm.
Um, there used to be that whole no farms, no food, and it was the hippies in California that were like, "Yeah, you need to,
Right. Support
you
your
need
local
to support
farmer.
your local farmer," and they were all about being local. And you guys remember I touched on it a week or two ago. It was the big topic with the stupid they had that article on Yahoo News that came out of a University of Michigan study, I think, that said the carbon footprint of the homegrown food is 5 times greater than those grown conventionally. Now, they were
Right.
talking about in the suburbs. If you read the whole article, it was a lot about like if you had raised beds, that because you bought the stuff to make raised beds and somehow you're like throwing it out every year, every other year and starting over, that
Hmm.
that was a crappy system. But no, it turns out that that's a bunch of crap in
Yeah,
my opinion.
that's bullshit.
And that's one of the things I think that upsets us and sends me on the rage all the time is that it comes down to fuck you, I won't do what you tell me.
Hmm.
Because it's they want to control me. And when you see that it's an obvious like bullshit lie, like,
Hmm.
or you just make blanket statements and then make rash decisions. I guess it's kind of over and over again. I mean, if you've been following the Second Amendment fight that's been going on in this country for the last, I don't know, forever. I think
Yeah.
since 1776.
Yeah,
Um,
basically.
if you've been following that fight at all, you notice that they're like, well, this isn't what they mean. This isn't their real agenda. Remember that what that clown up in Canada was always like, oh, I'm not really after your guns. I'm not coming for, I don't want to ban them. I just want to,
Make sure you
put a
can't
list,
own.
make sure good people, yeah, or remember Beto was like that, our hero
Hmm.
out in Texas. It's insanity. They all like start out with, and I guess that's what it is nothing is the immediate dramatic attack right this minute, but all the signs are there that they keep dropping the subtle hints of, oh, well, it would be better if we just stop all this. And, and they're starting to slip the bugs in the food, right? And it was funny because I was actually in some like Facebook groups where they would actually just people would find labels at the grocery store that had bugs and different stuff in it. And they would post it to the Facebook group. Well, I went back to find it because I was going to grab some of those pictures for the podcast. All that stuff is gone. Like you can't find nothing about labels anywhere of
Hmm.
bugs in food. Now, here is like there's a breakdown. Like it's dried crickets, it's mealworms, it's grasshoppers, it's whole crickets. These things are pretty much, but you get into the grosser stuff like black soldier flies, house flies, wax moths, even cockroaches, right? So they give them all these fancy like Latin names, which I guess
Hmm.
proper names, if you will.
Right.
And then, and they slip them in the ingredient labels, and you're like, "Oh, yeah, that's good." Now, I don't think it's all super prevalent, although I did look when I started researching it. You can buy like cricket flour. So, like,
Really.
you're gluten intolerant, don't even worry about it. You can get flour made out of crickets, and you'd be good to go. Now, why are you gluten intolerant is maybe my question. And I would then go back to some other bad choices that our country keeps making, but I'm going to save that for another episode. Um, Kevin, I talk to me about this. Like, where are we at here?
All
Like,
right.
I,
Well,
I feel like America's going down a dangerous road.
yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, well, let's talk about France.
Okay.
Um, we all have seen the protests going on in France, and I don't think anybody's really aware of what's going on. France farmers in France, the EU's biggest agricultural producer, say they are not being paid enough, and are choked by excessive regulation on environmental protection. Now,
Yeah.
in France, everybody knows that being a farmer is not. You don't get rich being a farmer. You know, it's not a high paying job. Your most farms are right on the edge most of the time. You know, and you just pile up the regulations. And then to make up for the regulations, you have to subsidize that, right? But that shit doesn't really balance out,
No.
It ends up fucking people over.
And
And
subsidies come with control, and I
right,
think that's
and if subs exactly, if you want the subsidy, you have to do certain things according to us, you know? And if you drive a local farmer out, then you can buy that piece of land and you can regulate how much food is being produced by doing that. By shutting farms down and taking them over, you can either make it a farm or make it nothing, and you can control how much food is being produced. It really is a system of control. A lot of people think that this is like a battle between global warming and the health of our planet
right.
versus balance and shit like
First,
that. I don't think so.
right.
I think
No.
it's about control. It's about controlling the population. It's about controlling, if you can control water and food, you can control people, you know?
100%.
Um, Germany, same thing is going on in Germany with the farms there. They're upset about they don't want subsidies and they don't want regulation. They just want to be able to run their farms,
Right.
the way they want. And it's the same sort of thing. And France has always been great at protesting, you know what I mean? The United States, we had a protest and we kicked the British out. We had a revolution, and
We
in
showed a
France,
good
they had a
front.
revolution and they cut everybody's heads off. You know what I mean? We have a protest and we're standing around with signs and chanting slogans. In France, they're dumping dump trucks
Manure
full
on
of
the yeah.
manure on people's front steps. I really appreciate the way they go about their
I
stuff,
think
man. I
some of those were like you watch some of those videos, it's like they emptied their septic tank and just brought it in. I don't even think it had anything to do with
Yeah, I
water.
don't know that there was cow manure in there. It all looked like human shit. They're
We're
just
seeing toilet paper floating up and who knows what, you know?
uh-huh.
But that's the thing. I 100% agree with you is it all comes down to control. And the big thing is, we've been preaching since the beginning of time, as loud as I can say it and jumping up and down on the tables is that the more you can provide for your family, the less control they have over you. And
That's right.
100% this is where this is heading is control. If they can decide how much food you get and how much, a lot of people are like, oh, well, I'm just never going to turn in my gas truck and I know how to keep it running. Well, right. But they're just going to tax the shit out of gas.
Mhm.
Like it's going to be where it's $20 a gallon and you're going to be like, well, I have my truck. And they're going to be like, yeah,
Yeah.
good
But
luck
you
with that.
can't fucking go anywhere.
Yeah. And that's how it comes down. Now, I don't know how they get the balance of like diesel for, me to run my tractor for agriculture or whatever, how that's all going to play out where they're going to slow me down from using my tractor or whatever. Cause I mean, you'd have to tax diesel pretty high to make it have an impact on me. I mean, realistically, I could probably pay $100 a gallon for diesel and run my tractor as much as I want for the year for $500.
Right.
And I mean, I know that $500 sucks compared to 50, but
Mhm.
whatever, like, I mean, I'm talking about over a whole year, we're
Right.
talking about $2 a day, not, life-changing crippling. Um, but that's kind of how it comes down is they're gonna find ways to screw us. And I I don't know. But it is all about individual rights and all about the more you can take care of your family. And that's why, like we did finally get there. You guys have heard me preach about rabbits for forever. Now I finally have the rabbit system going. Now I've actually butchered rabbits and eaten them, and they were excellent. I gotta say, nothing but happy. I brought them to work. Everybody's like, "Yeah, best thing ever,"
Hmm.
whatever. They also they're not like wild animals. But I do need to step up my game on not buying feed from Tractor Supply. Like it's
Right.
still a thing. So now I'm actually doing like microgreens and growing, or maybe it's my wife is doing things like
Yeah, let's be honest. I'm
yeah,
the same way. I have a great garden that my wife
yeah,
takes
you
care
know,
of.
I look at my farm. Let me go out and take some pictures. I,
Hmm.
I get on the tractor and till it though, like nobody's business. Let me tell you.
Right. Once or
Um,
twice a year, he's out there.
twice a year, I'm like, I'll turn dirt, nothing. Um, but that's the thing. It's so, I mean, man, they're coming after guns again. They're coming after, all this stuff. It's like, yeah, Chris, we could do that. Anyway, the they're coming after all the individual things that that make us self-sufficient, and
Right.
having guns and bullets. That's a big thing, right? That's everyone's like, oh, you don't need a gun. You do need a gun,
Hmm.
and that's how it is. But you need stockpiles of food. You need access to clean fresh water. You need to not be dependent on the government. And I mean, honestly, solar isn't that bad of an idea when everyone's like, oh, it's because the government wants us to do it and whatever. Now, I gotta say, they still are kind of crappy on getting you efficient solar and whatever. It's getting better every year. We're getting closer. It's even pretty close to where it's starting to be a good idea. But the independence it gives you from the grid, but you want to find a setup that you're going to be in control of. How many people have these home solar setups where if the power goes out, they still don't have power?
Right.
That doesn't even make sense.
Hmm.
And the
Yeah.
government can still limit how much you have and have access to. That's insane. That's not independence and freedom.
Hmm.
But if you have a setup that you can take care of. Now, are solar panels and batteries a good thing for the environment? Nah, I don't think so. I don't think that's a best practice and whatever.
Hmm.
I will say I just ordered and it hasn't come yet. Somehow it's been like 3 weeks and I'm still waiting on Amazon. That Prime 2-day delivery that I get. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. I
um,
pay extra for that too, and it shows
that's
up. Usually shows up within a week or two.
so now I'm like 3 weeks into a 12-volt solar well pump. But
Hmm.
that's the thing is, you know what? You can shut off my power, but I'll still be able to turn on my faucet and whatever. And I finally broke down and ordered some solar panels again to run my well pump. That's what I want. I'm like, I need to be able to do this. And you can only do so much. I can't have everything, but I can cover little things. Um, and that's over and over again what we keep preaching is the you want to find a way that you can get closer every day. I think that's really what it comes down to. I have it where I can do, I have rabbits, but I still buy feed from Tractor Supply. Or I have chickens and they free range about half the time and half of their diet is feed. And you see, none of that is 100%. And it's not the way it should be. And it's not the way I want it to be. But we're all overwhelmed by the world. We're all overwhelmed paying taxes and property taxes and, everything else. We do what we can do. But the idea is to get closer and better and more independent. And you also have to plan to have enough time to hide some of your stuff. You got to make sure that they don't just come knock on your door and take it all from you.
Hmm.
Because sometimes we just keep throwing it in a room and we're like, all right, I got this, I got that, I ordered that. All right, it's there. I haven't even gone back to it. I don't know, but I have supplies. And then the government comes and says, hey, yeah, we decided to tell everybody all at once that we're going to make you all register your guns and bring them all out. And, yeah, I don't like that one. I don't like this one. And why don't you just give them all to us? You
Hmm.
know, and, but the thing is, I've even heard of stories of we've seen them pass that that stuff where they can confiscate your food storage, right?
Hmm.
That they're keeping lists of people who buy from, My Patriot Supply and Wise Foods and things like that, and that they might one day come and take
Right.
your supplies. Well, so make sure you have that stuff set aside is all I'm saying.
Hmm. Right. I mean, there's a lot of, really the truth of the matter is you should be raising chickens. You should have a garden. It really does not take a lot of work to have some chickens. You know what I mean? Even if you got 3 chickens and you're getting 2 eggs a day, that's a big, plus. You can easily ramp that up, but taking care of 3 or 4 chickens is not a big deal. You let them out in the morning, give them some food and water, and put them in. I mean, they basically go where go into the hutch. It's not like you have to chase them around the yard and shit. They know nighttime comes and it's time to get inside.
Well, I had about 5 chickens that didn't recognize that it's time to go inside. I'm going to go sleep in a tree instead thing.
Right.
But after the fox got about 3 of them, the other 2 were like, "You know what? Oh shit. I think I am going to go into the coop." And
Yeah.
now they're coming around. So that or the fox got all 5. I'm not really sure, but
Hmm.
I think based on the ones that I'm seeing, the wife tells me that, pretty much 2 or 3 decided to move into the hutch, and that was really a better idea.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
just
Well,
saying,
I mean, really, when it comes to the animals, if there's more than 3, that's as far as I'm counting. I
3
I don't
too.
have patience for this.
But
I'm not going
that's the
through this
thing,
every
like,
day.
I started out this season with, I think, 35 chickens, and I think last time I counted, I was about 29 or 28, and I'm
Yeah.
like, "Whatever, they're more than 20." It's I
I,
don't know.
I ain't doing all this math. This is
Math
bullshit.
math is hard. They keep moving. It's like
Hmm.
watching chickens, they're just running around and you can't how do you count
Right.
them? I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah. I've been getting some of them snatched up by hawks, and so I had to
Yes,
do some work on that.
they
Now
ripped
I
their
don't know
necks
what
and yeah.
actually worked, so I set up a hawk netting, and my wife read somewhere, got some sort of idea about CDs. You hang them from a
Yes,
tree, and they just kind of spin
reflectors,
around and
yep.
reflect everywhere. I'll be honest with you, it fucks me up sometimes. I'll turn
You
around
fall
like
over
something's
just
coming at
watching.
me too.
Now,
So I mean,
did you say
between those
something?
2 things, though, I haven't had any trucks,
Right.
hawks since
Were
then.
you the one telling me about predator lights? What's the story there? What's
Oh
no?
yeah, yeah. I don't think that shit actually works.
Right, because you said something, and then the wife is like, "Oh, we gotta go get predator lights," and I'm like,
Yeah. So the idea is that it's like glowing eyes, and it's supposed to scare things away
but they were
out of
just
your
watching
garden
horror movies
specifically.
and probably
Yeah.
smoking pot when they came
Yeah,
up with that
big
one.
red scary eyes, but it
Yeah.
turns out it only, like, scares things away for a day or 2, and then they realize that that's just a
I
normal
I
thing
think
to do instead.
I think that's like scarecrows and stuff. Like, I think scarecrows work day 1 or 2,
Right. You
and
gotta
then the
yeah,
animals are
you
like,
gotta
"Wait a
move them around, that's the thing, you gotta move the
that's the
eyes
thing."
around, you gotta move the scarecrow around, if it's in the exact same place every day, it doesn't work.
Oh, Mayhem Country Living, checking us out. Nice. You guys,
Yeah,
have you ever, checked out the Mayhem Country Living, YouTube channel? I gotta say, he's got a lot of great stuff on there. He's always living the outdoor life, right? That's what
mhm,
always inspires me. Um,
right,
anyway, Darren there. But, anyway, you gotta do something where you go and, you get out, you get involved. And that's, I don't know, that's why I got excited about Mayhem Country Living there because I
mhm,
was like, "Oh, he's out doing," you know? And how true is it that we need to, like, live the life? And that's really what it comes down to is, 1, enjoying life. You wanna we don't wanna just live a life of fear. We don't wanna live a life where we're constantly preparing and constantly it shouldn't be like that. It should be building a life that you wanna live. That's awesome,
mhm,
you
right,
know? And I think there's a way that you can be a prepper and not do the whole outdoor nature survival kind of thing, but you can still be prepared. You need to create the world that fits for you. Me, I love the nature outdoor survival thing, that hey, let's build fires and hang out in the woods and shoot
Mm-hmm.
guns and do things. That's, to me, that's exciting and awesome. Let's eat ribs.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do man things, cook over fire. And that's exciting to me, but you need to create the world that is exciting for you. And that maybe, I heard Zuckerberg, he built a $270 million underground bunker in Hawaii. Now, he does his world where he goes and does crazy stuff, yet is also prepared. And I
Right.
don't imagine that guy's ever even seen a campfire. I sure. I
Yeah.
don't.
No, I'm sure that bunker is like living in the lap of luxury, you know?
You do the one that's right for you, and that's the whole point.
Mm-hmm.
Is you want to create the world that you enjoy. And that's, I mean, that goes with anything. You see people with like religion and stuff like that. It shouldn't be a chore and a bother.
Mm-hmm.
You should find things that incorporate the stuff that you love. And, if your church has the get togethers and does the kind of things and the community and fellowship, the hanging out with each other, the business networking, they do the things that you love, then that's awesome. Then that's great. You can create the world that works for you. And I think that's really where we need to go. They're coming after all this stuff, and it just is one more, sign that you need to step up your game and be able to take care of your own. You need to find a way to, create your world that is going to work for you and be sustainable. And part of being sustainable, I don't mean from the hippie sense. I mean, when the government stops selling it, how are you going to keep getting it?
Right.
I'm still going to have meat unless they come and take the rabbits out of my backyard. You know
Right.
what I'm It's going to be a lot harder for them to cut down on mine. It's real easy to say, "Oh, there's not going to be any burgers in the grocery store. Sucks to be you." That's easy
Mm-hmm.
for them. It's not easy to come and say, "Well, I'm going to come take those goats and that chickens and rabbits out of your yard." That's a little bit harder of a sell,
Right.
and especially when you can't see my yard from the front. You don't know what I have or whatever. And,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we can send an inspector out to come walk around your property, but they're going to have to work a lot harder to get mine than they are to just take the burger off the grocery store shelf. That's
Right.
what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's
Yeah,
what it
I
got.
don't know. I'm gonna have to start raising cattle because I don't know if I'm gonna be able to go without beef. Chicken is great, rabbit's great. I like
Yeah,
pork, but
it's pretty good.
you
I
know,
did hit the steakhouse Thursday night.
yeah.
They had Valentine's Day on Wednesday, I guess, and I couldn't do that. I ended up going to a farm agriculture meeting at the cooperative extension, which
Mm-hmm.
every time I go to those, the people are so nice, but I'm just like disgusted with how government intrusive they want to be.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I don't know. But anyway, bottom line, find a way to make yourself a little bit more self-sufficient every day, and that's what it comes down to. So,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Definitely like and subscribe if you enjoyed what you're hearing. You have questions, show ideas, thoughts, concerns, email us at preppingbadass@gmail.com. Otherwise, I would say stay safe, and we will talk to you guys next week. Stick around for an after show.